Good evening. This is Attorney Talib Kareem, the Executive Director of STEM4US. And I am excited to once again be with you this evening as a lot of us in the nation are turning our eyes and our attention to learning about this country that we probably never even heard of called Ukraine. Another geography lesson for a lot of us who have gray on our hair. We know that this has happened at least more than one time, where we have to find out the name of a new country that is so far from us, has no connection to us, but yet is likely to cause a loss of money, time, and most importantly, bodies in our nation. And this is a very serious time that we find ourselves in, but yet we are happy nonetheless to be joined by somebody who knows this topic very well. As we talk about this topic in terms of the battles that we are taking that are taking place right now overseas, we know in this country that there are battles that are taking place right here at home. We already know everybody's being confronted with the COVID battle, the battle to either avoid getting COVID or to survive COVID. But we know, combined with that, that we have the battles that are taking places on our streets every single day. Gun battles, in fact, between rival groups of young people in some cases, or between young people who are seeking and threatening to take away people's cars through carjackings. We also know that there's a cultural war going on as well in this country that is dividing working class and poor Caucasians from the people who they see as their enemy, and that is people of color who are growing in number every day. So this is the backdrop of this conversation, and we believe that something that unites all of these threads is cyber. The field of cyber is something that touches us all. Technology connects all of us and is connecting us all tonight because we are all able to engage in this conversation. And we believe that it's STEM4US, that if we can increase the nation's ranks of cyber professionals, particularly African Americans and women, as well as Latinos and other people of color, then we can have the wealth that this country is generating through this field be greater, be shared in a greater proportion to people. And this will in turn lead to a reduction of some of the senseless violence that we see playing out on our streets every day. So without any further ado, I want to bring in once again another leader in the cyber field who has taken from his busy schedule to share his thoughts about what's happening both at home and abroad, and his life's journey through the years that he has experienced the world of both cyber as well as going through college and working his way up the corporate ladder. And so without any further ado, let me bring on our guest. That is none other than Tommie T. Thompson, all the way from St. Louis, right?
No, sir. We're in Kansas City.
Kansas City. So, I always have to correct myself, but I oftentimes confuse St. Louis and Kansas City. But are you from St. Louis or are you from Kansas City?
I'm from born in well, not born here. I'm born in Louisiana, but I grew up in Kansas City and ended up being fortunate enough to come back here to work. So.
Oh, we're gonna have to correct that that introduction, because I think I have somewhere in your bio that you were playing football on the streets of St. Louis. So it's Kansas City, not St. Louis.
It's Kansas City.
And this goes back to my conversation about geography. A lot of folks in this country are geography handicapped. We don't even know the difference between St. Louis and Kansas City, let alone Ukraine and the Russia or Latvia or Lithuania or Lithuania and all those other Estonia. We can go down the list of those Baltic countries. But with that said, Tommie, first of all, we appreciate you supporting STEM4US, supporting the students that are benefited from the support that our cyber leaders like you provide to give them the training and hopefully also the job placement into cyber jobs so they can follow in your footsteps. So we wanted just to first of all say how much we appreciate you, brother. And some I haven't said this, but I will say it that Tommie and I date back to our days as cadets at the United States Air Force Academy before any of us had any gray, and before at least I was wearing glasses. I bragged about my 2020 back then, but I no longer have it now. But again, Tommie, it's a pleasure to see how you've grown in those years and the things that you've accomplished. And so we want to just share a little bit about those accomplishments that you've made in your career. And if I was going to pick up a book called The Making of Tommie Thompson, and I was going to kind of page through the chapters from your high school days to where you are currently, what would be an abbreviated summary of what I would read?
Well, first of all, before I get into that, I want to thank you, Brother Talib. I really, really appreciate, and I'm sure that, many, many others appreciate the fact that, you have established this venue and you're able to bring these issues up and you're able to reach the audiences and the masses that you do, to bring these things to the forefront, and to bring attention to, things that are applicable, to us, specifically, being African American, males and are individuals and being able to have a forum to be able to talk about these things. So first of all, I want to give you your accolades there.
Well, brother,
Um,
I can just only say that we're thankful to the Almighty for being able to be inspired by great parents that we had, and may the Almighty
yeah,
have mercy upon them. And which inspired us to be, able to go to the Air Force Academy and meet, exciting people like yourself. So it's all a blessing, brother. But please take it away.
absolutely.
Take it away.
Okay. Well, I mean, I got, I grew up, like most, during the, late 70s, early 80s. A lot of us, I mean, you didn't have uh, a lot of resources to do a lot of things or to be put into a lot of programs or different things. And so I grew up just like everyone else. And you're trying to figure out your way. You're trying to figure out the types of things that you like to do and ways that you can put a dent per se in this world, let everyone know, hey, I was here and I tried to get out here and to do something positive. And that was one of my primary focuses. And it just so happens that the thing that floated my boat, I played sports. I played football, I ran track, I wrestled. I was into sports a lot, but with regards to me, I had an affinity towards technology pretty early. And I think that the reason that that happened with me is because once I started getting into it, I realized the fact that with creating software or creating solutions out of technology based sources, you could essentially make something out of absolutely nothing. I mean, when you're creating a piece of software, that doesn't exist before you start writing those lines of code. And then once you write those lines of code, then you have something that can be valuable, to whether it's something for entertainment purposes or whether it's something for, business purposes or can be converted to something that would help, to further someone else. And so I really took to that, as a young person. And that has always been in the back of my mind. And so, as I went through high school, I took some computer programming classes, and I mean, I loved it. And I was one of these kids. I always liked to see how things worked, and so electronic things, I would take them apart and put them together. Just because I wanted to see, how is this power getting from point A to point B? What made that light come on? When I plug this up into an electrical outlet, what is going on with that? And so I was always intrigued. So I was taking things apart and putting them together, and I learned from just doing that, and I put myself luckily in a position to be able to do more of that, and to pattern what I was studying, around, the fact that I like to do that. And that allowed me to be excellent in it because I was interested in it. And I encourage, any kids, especially in technology arenas, hey, you know, teach yourself, and get that knowledge so that, when you start learning more and more, you already have a platform to start from. So, but like I said, that's kind of how I started. I uh, you know, got to a place to where I was like having to decide where I was going to go to school, if I was going to go to college, what I was going to do, and decided that I liked electronics and I like computers both, and so I had to make a decision, and to make a decision on the school. And I had several scholarship offers, and I decided, not only do I like doing this stuff, and I know that the Air Force deals with technology, but I'm also an athlete. So where can I go where I might be able to do all of those things? And it just naturally, when I had an opportunity to apply for the Air Force Academy, I did so, and I was fortunate, blessed, and lucky enough to receive an appointment and ended up going. Um, so that's early Tommy, all the way up to college days.
Well, tell me, if you will, how was it as a young man coming from the football fields of Kansas City
Hmm.
to the campus of the Air Force, back during, I guess at that time was still the Cold War.
Hmm.
We were
Hmm.
still at war with Russia during that time. At that time, it was the USSR. And
Right.
what was it like in 1980s, during the remain? I guess you'd come to campus. So I think President Reagan was still the president at that time, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what was it like, being a student at the Air Force Academy in the presidency, last years of President Reagan's time in office, and during the end of the Cold War? What was that like? And where are the parallels that you can draw from today, from that experience?
Sure. To be quite honest, I mean, with regards to international dealings and military dealings, I'll be honest with you, I was scared to death, because, you know, I didn't know from a political and military standpoint what we were getting ourselves involved in. And so that was really the stopping. It was a stagnation point for me thinking about going in the military in the first place. But I knew, that with what I had and what I knew how to do, and the fact that, you know, I felt pretty confident. You put me in a room and you say, "Hey, we need to build this or build that. Give me some instructions," that I could do that. I felt that I could be value added, towards us establishing some a better sense of security, for the country. And so, you know, once I started thinking about that way, it didn't really bother me as much. Going into the military, I knew I might be put in a situation where my life might be on the line. Whether I'm flying an airplane or whether I'm in a bunker somewhere, working on electronics, computers, and somebody bombs it. Whether I'm over in Iraq whatever. I knew that the possibility of those things could come up, but I had to look at it differently because if the military didn't have people like me, then we're not going to be the best out there and we can't protect everybody else. And so, it changed my mentality quite a bit about going in the first place. Um, and then, you talk about, going from an athlete, into, this type of thing. I've always loved playing sports. That's something that I always love to do. And, with the Air Force and with the other military branches, I mean, you're required to be somewhat physically fit. And, there's a competitive, um, aura, that's there where you want to be the best that you can be physically as well as mentally. And so I knew that by going that avenue, I would get to exercise both of those. I didn't know how far I would be able to exercise both of those, but I knew that I could, through that avenue. And so that made me, feel, good about my decision, to decide to go that route.
And let me ask you, as a young man from Kansas City, from a standpoint of one of the issues and conflicts that we have currently taking place in our country, that is the conflict over diversity.
Mhm.
A group, some people see it that poor, working class Caucasians are pushing back against what they see as rights that they've worked for being taken from them
Mhm.
by African Americans, Latinos, and other people of color. How did that play out when you were a young man at the Air Force Academy? And what lessons do you see that you could offer for young people who may be coming out of high school today, who see nothing much, being done in the way of change to some extent?
Well, the best advice that I could give in that particular case is, and it's easier said than done, but don't be discouraged. Do not be discouraged in your path, your walk, your pursuits, your goals. Do not let someone else or other or situations that are going on in life deter you from what it is that you really, really love to do. I've got a funny story, and this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. One of my freshman year at the Air Force Academy, you have three people per room, and one of the guys that was my roommate, he was a fellow football player, and he was from Picayune, Mississippi, and he had not had very much exposure to African Americans. I mean, it was obvious during, I think, his growing up and where he's from, and so being his roommate and seeing him every day in day out, we got to know each other a little bit better, and both of us. We didn't have the best GPAs the first semester there at the Air Force Academy, and so we were kind of in the same boat. And it was like, hey, it's time to shape up, or hey, they're gonna make you leave. And so we proceeded to go through the next semester. I got my study habits, together, and got to a point to where I was comfortable and I could balance, all three legs of the Air Force Academy, which were, military, academics, and athletics. You want to be the best in all three of those categories as you could be. And so, I had spent too much time in the military and in the athletic part, and I really wasn't studying the way I needed to. So, um, so we get to the end of the second uh, semester, and it was a situation where this guy, while we were in the room, I mean, he would make racial comments, towards me, and I didn't let it bother me, and he was like, yeah, you're dumb, and this, that, and the other. I mean, I was hearing this every day, and then he was, throwing, some slang, bad words, out. And so, I was just determined. I was like, okay, well, you can call me whatever you want, but hey, all I know, I'm gonna make it through here, and I'm gonna do this, and do this appropriately. So, needless to say, at the end of the semester, um, my GPA was substantially better in the threes, and his GPA did not change. And so we, as a squadron, all the freshmen, everyone that did not make it to that place, we actually got to see them off, as they left. And I hope it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but I gave him a look, almost like, yeah, all that stuff that you were saying about me. Guess what? You were telling me I didn't belong here. You're the one that didn't belong here. Have fun in Mississippi.
And it's interesting that you say that, because that is an interesting experience about how challenging the Air Force Academy was academically, but not just for African Americans, as you pointed out,
Right.
but also people who didn't look like us.
Hmm.
For example, poor Caucasians, which perhaps was where this young man found himself from in his demographic background. And so, with that in mind, if we were going to tackle at least one leg, if you will, of the current conflicts that are going on with respect to our country, let's say the conflict of the racial divisions as being one of those legs. Uh, what would give as advice to the leaders of this country based upon what you again experienced at the Air Force Academy, and the commonalities between the challenges that you had with though people, the young man who came from a totally different background, who didn't look
Hmm.
like you?
Uh, the first piece of advice that I would give leaders is to really, really pay attention and remember where we've come from as a country. We have made a lot of strides and a lot of advances, over the past, well, 30 years that I've seen, and been paying attention. You know, where we were, up until very recently, was a far cry from where it was when, I was in high school, and going to college. And I think that it was positive. I think that for some, for the circumstances that are happening now, um, I think that that's been lost, not only by some of the leaders that we have, but also by a lot of the public. I think the public, you know, we get comfortable and we get lulled into, very easily into these, um, what do you want to call them, ways of thinking that, aren't really very comprehensive or educated, or experienced. It's just easy to fall into a, oh, okay, hey, if I'm having any troubles or whatever, it's this group's fault or it's that group's fault, or pointing fingers. It's not about that. This country, was formulated and has become better on the idea of a work ethic and going out here and contributing as an individual contributor and putting yourself in a position to where you can get with other individual contributors, and you can actually make a bigger difference by, having the right attitudes, by having the right morals, thinking about, the fact that everybody is equal. you know I might have the capacity in my brain to take on more things in a certain area than you do. Have respect for that. And me, and vice versa. Now, when you put those things together, now we've got a big brain that can do even more together. And I think that until we get back to that type of a mindset as a country, we're going to keep staying in these factions. And that's not what this country was built on. This country was built on being a melting pot and us putting those ideas together, and then us blasting off and being the best on the planet. As far as the country, when we splinter ourselves, we are a whole bunch of mediocres, and that's not the America that I know.
Brother. That was so moving. It got me choked up over there, brother. Well, well, let me ask you about another leg of this, triangle, or another leg of the seat, and that is the challenge that we have addressing the violence that is taking place in our neighborhoods every single day.
Hmm.
A lot of the data that we have stems or suggests that what we see is a manifestation of both the COVID tensions that have come and both left people paralyzed mentally, emotionally, and financially. Um, and um, and then you also have the residue of something that's been happening for generations, and that is the exodus of men in the homes of our families, particularly from the homes of African American boys.
Hmm.
So they find themselves, being raised oftentimes by their mothers or aunts or grandmothers, and not having the ability to have that type of discipline, the discipline that, for example, you and I got at the Air Force Academy.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think is both the analysis of what you see taking place, and I don't know if it's as bad there in Kansas City as it is bad here in the DC area, but what's your analysis of what's taking place, and what do you see as some of the solutions for that challenge?
Um, I've got a kind of a dual opinion on this, because I mean, granted, there is some systemic there are some systemic factors that exist. All right, you know, for generations and generations, I think that African Americans have been put in a position to where we may end up having less resources, and we start off on not as high of a footing as some people out here have, and we have to make a way out of no way, basically. You know, Now the positive element of that is that I think that strength comes in that. You're able to handle more ups and downs, wins and losses in a mature fashion when you have to go through that in order to get to where you need to be. Now, with that being said, you know, everybody gets fed up at some point in time. Everybody has a limit, and people's limits are at different levels. And so, in some cases, I mean, I can understand and empathize, with some African Americans where you're trying to do this stuff. You're trying to get out there. You're trying to take advantage of these opportunities. And, you know, in some cases, if you keep getting doors slammed in your face, you're not going to be too happy about it. You're going to be upset, right? And so, I can understand where some of that frustration comes from, but that cannot be the end all and be all of your life. And you've got to think about the consequences of what you do, of course, knowing that that's kind of the what's out there, to be able to um, pick yourself up quicker, make your decisions a little bit wiser, so you don't make that situation worse than what it already is. And I'm not saying that everybody's situation's bad or whatever. I'm just saying we have to be smarter than the average bear. If you understand the machine that you're in, you understand that there's gears over here that will grind you up and spit you out. You understand that there's something over here that'll pop your head off. you need to be smart enough to know that I'm sitting in this machine and I don't need to go there and I don't need to go there. But guess what? This machine that would pop my head off. I might be able to use that to pop the top off of this Coke can and give me some nourishment, or to give me something that I can use in order to accomplish my goal. So you have to be smart. You have to think about it that way. You have to be smarter than the machine. And if you are able to successfully do that, you can actually have that machine work for you and not against you, as it was probably designed to do.
Well, it's interesting you say that in terms of giving young people some of the tools that they need to make smarter decisions. Because at Sim for Us, but one of the things we're doing is trying to train young people for careers in the cyber area, either as web developers or mobile phone developers or cybersecurity professionals or cloud architects or even drone operators.
Hmm.
And there are so many opportunities in all these fields that will give them more doors that they can walk through. Can you tell me, I mean, what is your thought about the idea of both training young people for these positions and then placing them in positions and then providing them with ongoing coaching? Do you think that possibly could be a game changer? I know you can't save everybody, but what do
Hmm.
you think about that idea in general?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You're hitting the nail on the head. Once you see the opportunities out there, once you're exposed to those opportunities, then you can fit it into what it is that you like to do, and make it become a part of you to achieve your goals through those programs and through what it is that you learn. Absolutely. That's exactly what we need to do.
So tell me, what are you doing currently? I know you supported the work that we have been doing at STEM for Us, and we hope that you will continue. We're doing a and planning for an upcoming cyber hackathon for youth to help them learn about those fields that we just talked about and give
Hmm.
them a group project that they have to kind of hack on over the course of a 4 week period. Um,
Okay.
Actually a 5 week period because there's a presentation at the end. Um, but beyond supporting groups like STEM for Us, or beyond supporting STEM for Us, what other groups do you support, and how else are you making a difference in the lives of young people that are in your community there in Kansas City?
Yeah. Well, first off, and this is, I believe, in my bio. I'm vice president of the Kansas City chapter of the Project Management Institute, in which we have some programs there where we offer scholarships to high school seniors, where they are showing an interest in technology paths, paths, and being able to manage technology teams, that type of a thing. And so I think we've set aside $8,000, to give in scholarships this year. That's one organization. Um, Another organization is the Kansas City Swingers Golf Association. With that group, we give away 10 $1,000 scholarships to high school seniors, to go to the school of their choice. They present what their goals and aspirations and whatnot are. They have to produce an essay for us, and we have a judgment panel that judges those, and we select the winners from there. I am a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. My chapter here, we put on, or we actually have multiple events per year, to where we are giving the youth. We do give away youth scholarships there as well, and we have a programs like, we have a talent hunt coming up next month, where we're giving away prizes for people showing, their talents and gifts, whether it be singing, whether it be playing instruments, or and whatnot. So I mean, those are just a few of the items that I'm directly involved with. But I mean, of course, I support any of these programs that will help youth. I mean, it's not just necessarily about African Americans. I'm a big person on youth. You teach them early, and then you watch them flourish. And when you teach them and you don't allow them to be to lull themselves into an ignorant environment, then I mean, that's a situation that makes itself for possibly me not having to go through what I went through with my roommate at the Air Force Academy, because he's more educated and he knows that, hey, when it comes down to it, there's no difference between you and me. We can either work together or, but I'm not going to let you flap me in what I'm trying to work towards.
I like the way you approach that. So tell me also, brother Tommie, in terms of, and I see we got a comment from brother Raymond Robinson, recently retired uh, colonel, but I think maybe he retired as a brigadier general from the United States Air Force Reserve, or the National Guard, the Air National Guard, Tennessee
Right.
National Guard. I think he did retire as a brigadier general, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
Um, and if he didn't, I'm just going to give him give him the star that he deserves. I know he deserved it. But tell me, brother, in terms of with some of us are now looking at, and I think you handled that question about the other leg of the seat that we're struggling with in our country, and that is the internal conflict that's playing its way out on the streets of our cities every single day.
Mhm.
What do you think about this current escalation of the conflict in Ukraine? Some of us know that this stems from a battle that began to be waged starting in 2014, when the democratically elected government was overthrown by the current government that just so happened to be backed by the United States, and the other government that was more closely aligned to Russia, which many people know is on the border. This country, Ukraine, is on the border of Russia,
Mhm.
and many of the people, especially in the East, speak Russian. Um, you lived through the Cold War, and you remember, having to go through the drills, both at the Air Force Academy and perhaps even at home, with the
Mhm.
possibility of nuclear war being always a possibility.
Mhm.
And during that time period after the Cold War, we kind of erased it from our mind. But some of people like yourself and me as well, I was stationed for a little bit at a nuclear missile base. So I
Mhm.
went down to those silos, and I saw those missiles, and we read about what, and had to watch movies about what could happen in
Mhm.
the event of a nuclear missile launch on the part of either side. What do you think about, when you hear that the nation is, re-engaging in this type of conflict that could lead to catastrophe on both sides? What are your thoughts and lessons for young people who are now finding themselves in the same seats that you once occupied when you were
Mhm.
at the Air Force Academy or in high school?
Well, I mean, when you start dealing with, international diplomacy, and you start dealing with wars and, other conflicts that other countries, are going through, um, I mean, of course, I'm no expert in that area. I mean, I have my own opinions about it. You have to be very, very careful, and hopefully we're doing our homework, because we need to understand, you know, from an overall standpoint. And when you start committing troops and you start putting lives on the line, you need to really, really um, do your homework and know what it is that you're trying to achieve out of this. You know, uh, I understand, I mean, from an international standpoint, especially with our NATO partners. Um, our goal is to support democratic, regimes, across the world. We don't want anybody that's allowing their people to have an equal say or having a vote and having those types of democratic freedoms. We don't want them to fall by the wayside. We don't want them to feel that they're not being supported from an overall standpoint. We don't like the fact that oligarchs and dictatorships and some of these communist types of leaderships go in and bully them. I mean, we don't like that, but at the same time we need to be smart enough as a country. you know I still believe that we're the strongest country on this planet, and we need to be the smartest country on this planet. I think that the what Biden's done as far as getting the NATO involved, and the fact that we're not going to go in there and put our hands on anybody directly, we're going to have form an alliance, and that alliance is going to assist. I think that that was a smart move to make. I think that if we went uniformly into any conflict of that nature, we're just asking for it. We're not here to do that. We don't have to fight with anybody. You know, because I think that we're just that strong, and I don't think that anybody's stupid enough to really mess with us. But we also have to consider that um, even us being involved in those conflicts in the most minimal way, it affects our citizens as well. And so we have to be very careful on what we get involved in and how much we get involved.
Well, and it's interesting because yesterday I was part of a conversation with the National Bar Association, that's the Association of Black Lawyers, dealing with this issue of obesity. And as you may know, obesity is a state when you have an extra 100 pounds on your body. And do you know how many Americans in general are obese?
Probably about 50%.
Was almost close to that. Not yet quote for all of America, but it is that way for African Americans,
Okay.
and also for African American youth.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why there was, and it was surprising because you think, okay, obesity means that you're eating too much,
Mhm.
but not just eating too much. It's actually eating too much of the wrong things
There you go.
combined with not actually having the opportunity to do some daily movement and fitness activities.
Hmm.
And that problem was, as was discussed yesterday, is rooted in a lack of material means in many ways.
Hmm.
If you
Hmm.
live in a food desert, for example, you can't go and buy, or you don't have access to buy healthy foods. And if you are unemployed or underemployed, the healthy foods sadly cost more than the
Right.
unhealthy foods. And then if you live in a neighborhood that's riddled by shootings every day, where you have to be, fearful, and you want to get inside the house as soon as possible, maybe you
Hmm.
might not feel like playing football like you and I may have had the pleasure of playing football outside of our houses.
Hmm.
So they were talking about, well, what was needed, the investments, dollar investments were needed to be able to solve that. And as you know, somebody who was in the Air Force and supported some of the military systems, that those military systems itself, one military system itself, can eliminate the problem of food deserts in the United States.
Right.
So, when you think about this issue of particularly overseas military conflicts with nations that don't have anything at all to do with us here and now,
Hmm.
you know, I wonder with people, particularly who have served in these conflicts. People who have died in the course of serving in Iraq or Afghanistan, and I'm sure you may know people who have taken their own lives after having come home, after having performed some of the missions that they had to perform. I mean,
Hmm.
what is the thinking that somebody in your shoes has versus the everyday Joe Blow who might be listening to CNN or MSNBC right now and kind of quarterbacking from the couch, if you will.
Well, I mean, those are both very sensitive subjects. I mean, you know, talking from the standpoint of, food deserts, here, and the obesity problem that we have here. I think that it has affected all of our society, and I think that it's a result of the way that we have transformed the way that we do things, the way we communicate, the types of things that we're valuing. You know, Back in the day, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have, some of the things that we have now. We didn't have the Oculus where you could sit in your house and feel like you're going, all over the world and stuff. And then you get done with that, and then you lay on the couch and you watch TV. Right. So, I mean, I think it's some of our habits that have caused that problem, as well as the fact that, as you said, some of the more healthy foods, they charge more for them because they're at a premium. That's the capitalistic, system working, against us. Because if they can get you to pay more for the more healthy stuff that is healthy, then they're going to try to get you to pay more for it. So, I mean, like I said, that's like a paradox. It's really tough to figure out a robust solution for that. I think it's going to have to be a lot of things that need to change there. And then, as far as the overseas part of the question, you know, people that are going over there risking their lives in these conflicts, and coming back with mental problems, coming back with all types of ailments. Some people coming back with skin diseases from what they were doing over there. You know, um, Thank goodness that we do have a VA system where they can somewhat take care of these people. Because if that was left up to the private market, I don't think that. We would be as well off as we are. So capitalism works in certain instances, but it works against us in others, and that's the way I can tie those two things together.
Very good points. Well, as we conclude, let me give you two good questions that I'd like for you to take. One, just give us a rundown what your everyday life is like in your current job. You can talk about that for the young people who might be interested in trying to pattern themselves after you, and what they might expect once they get to a level at the top that you've climbed yourself up to this as a senior vice president, and what that means. How many people you manage, what kind of budgets you manage, stuff like that. And then second question is, if you were going to give Tommie T. Thompson some advice at 17, what might that advice be?
Oh goodness. Okay, first of all, to give um to talk a little bit about um what I do now. I I'm actually mostly playing in a supervisory role over technical teams. We're given objectives of things that we need to build or things that we need to accomplish, and each one of them has a technical nature to it, whether it be building servers, building hardware, building software. And so what I do is as they say right now, I herd the cats, because everybody has their own specialty. And so when you can see those different skills and you can put the right people together and get them all marching in the same direction, you will be amazed at what you can accomplish. And now, after being one of those cats in different capacities for all of these years, now I can understand the cats that are coming today, and to be able to herd many of them together to accomplish a bigger goal. And so, that's my day in and day out. I have projects that come. I have team members that have been designated to me. I meet with the team members. I find out, where their skills lie, and then we come up with plans in order to be able to accomplish the overall goal based upon, the resources that I have. And I mean, I love it. I love it. That's another case of making something, out of nothing, because those people individually couldn't accomplish what we're trying to accomplish together as a team. And so, it's very, very important to be able to get everybody on the same, page and to march, towards that goal. And then the second part of your question, advice that I would give myself, as a high schooler or in college. Um, Actually, and this is a cop out to leave, but I wouldn't change a thing because in all of the positive and negative experiences, I've taken something from them. I've learned from them, and they have probably flavored me and my attitude and my life in ways that I don't even recognize, at this particular point. So
And
I take it
I
all
can
in.
push you a little bit, though. I'm not necessarily asking what you would have changed. I'm asking
Okay.
what advice
What
would you
advice
give
would I give
yourself?
myself?
Right, exactly.
Well,
So
okay,
just
that
3 points,
advice,
if you will.
3 points. Um, always keep your eyes on the goals that you are looking to accomplish. Um, no matter what hits you, no matter what adversity that you face, always keep your eyes on that. Don't give up, and keep pressing towards the mark. Um, Number two, um, take or put as much as you can. Put your feelings um, on the back burner because it does, in most cases, it does you no good getting upset about anything that happens to you. What you need to do is you need to look at everything as a blessing and as a positive, and you use that to keep you on the track that you need to be on. Don't let it uh, consume you. And then number three, uh, make sure that you stay in contact with your support system. You know, it is great to go out here and to do good things. But if you do go out here to do good things and say that you climbed the Empire State Building, if you ain't bringing other people up with you, you're going to be up there lonely by yourself. What you need to do is you need to look at areas where you can bring somebody up a level from where they're at as you are going up so that at the end or in the end you're all up on the balcony celebrating together at the top of the building. So those are the best three things I can give you.
Brother, that is definitely a beautiful ending to a beautiful conversation. I'm really happy. And this has been almost a year in the making. we, we started talking about this last winter, and we finally have gotten this together with you being so busy and taking from your busy schedule to give us a little bit of your journey, your time, and we're really happy. And we hope that you'll be with our young people when we do the hackathon. And I'm going to put that up here for anybody who wants to register. We actually we've recalibrated it and it's going to launch it now to start in April after spring break, because we noticed that the schedule was actually taking place during spring break, the 5 weeks, and so we don't want to have the young people being any way disadvantaged, any of the teams that are competing being disadvantaged because of them having to be out because of their family going someplace perhaps for spring break. So we've recalibrated it, hopefully to avoid any type of spring break conflict after spring break, and hopefully the young people will be able to be benefited. We're still looking for more coaches, so we hope you will agree to be one of the coaches. I know you got a lot on your plate, but if you can take a couple hours on the Saturday to help coach our young people, help them build some exciting projects, that would be great. But in any regards, we really appreciate you taking your time and sharing your words of wisdom. And we wish you and your family peace and blessings and health and well-being during these challenging times.
Thank you very much, Talib, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I really
Excellent.
appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. We're really on the roll here. As I said, don't forget to check out that link to the registration for our young people to participate in the cyber hackathon. They have a chance to win thousands of dollars of prizes, build a project that can teach them how to build mobile phone apps, web development, teach them about drones, and also about team building and working together with people from across the country. It's a great opportunity. Second of all, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends and family. Don't hesitate to like it. And if you have not added a comment and you want to ask a question, don't hesitate to put it into the comment section there, and we look forward to getting that answered and getting back to you in a expeditious way. This has been Talib Kareem, Executive Director of STEM4US, with Tommie Thompson from Kansas City, not to be mistaken from St. Louis. We're really, really grateful for this opportunity and look forward to coming back to you next week at the STEM4US Cyber Ed podcast. Until then, have a great day.